Hi guys, and welcome back to Chloe's Magic Minis, where we paint the magic right onto your minis. It is the day after Christmas. I hope you guys all had a great holiday. Today, we're going to finish this little red gobbo and do all of the fun details. That way, we can see our finished product. Let's get into it. So I'm just going to start off by probably doing all of the metallic pieces on the base because the base is almost finished. Now, I still haven't glued these guys on just because I did think it was going to be a lot easier to paint. So there are a couple of spots I just want to touch up real quick before I get into all of the metallics. If I missed a spot in here somewhere, I just want to make sure I cover all of that. So while I was touching up all of the black areas before I put the metallic, I did notice that there are those little metallic areas near his eyes. And I did just want to get in there a little bit with some black, but I'm going to be actually using a black wash. So I just have this dark tone by Army Painter, and I'm just going to take a very little bit and just get his little eyes with that. Just because it's going to be a little easier to see and to put the metallic instead of just regular black paint. That, and it's going to give you a nice shadow underneath his hat. That is just a very small area. Perfect. So now we have a little bit more area right here to do some eyes. So when we put those colors there, that'll stand out a little bit more. So now that we have all of our areas touched up with the black and that's dry, I'm just going to be using a couple of different metallics by Army Painter. Now, this is one of their newer ones and one of their older ones. Personally, I am really enjoying the newer ones. They are really upgraded. I mean, I like the old ones. However, these are fantastic. In case you guys wanted to know. I don't know. I absolutely love Army Painter. So I basically just have a light silver and a dark silver. So shining silver is the lighter one, plate mail metal. That is very hard to read because it's so shiny. And that is my darker one. So I still think I need a little bit of a darker tone for the base metallic. So I'm just going to take a little bit of black, I mean a very small amount, and just kind of blend that a little bit until I get a little bit of a darker metal color. Let me just add a little bit more. Eventually, I will just pre-mix some in one of these empty paint containers. But for the sake of this video, we're going to be doing all of our metallics. So I do want to do the bottom of his feet, but I do want to do that in a dry brush. So I'm just going to go over those little metal pieces right here. Just make that a little bit more prominent. I want to leave a little bit of the black behind, especially in the middle of his boot, but I just want to highlight those little plates on the bottom of his feet. And that one you're really not going to see too much because that's going to be in the snow. But there is a little edge over here too on his boot that I just want to get. Just highlight that a little bit. And there are a little metal stud right there, and this is a little metal spike, so we'll paint those. And that's a little stud right there. And honestly, you can probably put a little bit of metallic around the edge of that if you wanted to as well. And that's pretty much how our boots are going to look. I just want to get the little edge around here with some metallic, just in case you see it when I glue it down. And his other little spike. A little stud there. A little stud there. All right. And we have a lot of stuff over here. So I'm just going to take that heavy dry brush and just kind of glide that over all of these little metal pieces. Just highlight all the detail with them. And these are going to be a little bit brighter once we put the lighter silver over it. But I just wanted a darker silver to go underneath. Really make it look metallic. These are, I guess, are his little metallic feet. His little mechanical feet. They're pretty cute. And these I'm going to go a little bit heavier with just because they don't have as much detail. They kind of just have some sharp corners. So, and they're a little hard to see, so we'll shine them up good. And we got some wires and cords and stuff here that we can paint. Just highlight all those little details there. And I think I'm going to make those other little things a different metallic color, just to break it up a little bit. And I do want to do this outside ring on the clock and the bells. I do want to leave a little bit of the black behind though. I don't want to paint the center of the clock handles, little arms in there. I'm going to leave those black. But I'm going to actually just take a dry brush over these bells and just highlight the detail on them. Just like that. It looks like they're a little dented. That's pretty cool. And there is a little metal panel on the back. I'm just going to get in there with a quick dry brush and highlight that a little bit so you can see that a little better. And like I said, you don't notice the metallic on top of the light colored snow as much as you would the white on top of the metallic. So now that his boots are dry, I'm going to take a little bit of that darker metallic and I'm just going to go in, actually I might want a smaller brush for this, in his little eyes with the metallic. I'm just going to take a very, very slight amount and just go right underneath the best I could and just highlight those little metallic things under his eyes. And this is very small. I apologize if you guys can't see perfectly. This is why I narrate a lot, to let you guys know, hey, I'm painting the underneath his eyes with a very, very small brush and a very small amount of dark metallic. So you can just see those little details just a bit more. And I did leave his eyes white so you can see the color that I'm going to put in them a little bit better. I haven't decided on a color yet, but we'll get there. So I do want to do a little bit of metallic on his belt as well. And I just want to kind of avoid that star a little bit, just because I wanted to make that gold. But I think I'm going to do his little belt buckle silver. So like I said, I'm just going to try to avoid that star the best I could. I'm just making everything a little more silver. just like that. And our mechanical snowman has some metallic parts on the back of him, these little metal panels. So I'm just going to take a little bit of our dark silver and get in there. And this part is a little tricky. I had a hard time getting in there with the black. I just want a thin line of that. That's fine, because that's a tough area. And we can leave some of the black behind. But I just want to paint all these little metal panels back here. And you can kind of start to see the little tiny rivets and things that he has. And there you go. And this guy has a little metallic piece on his little snowball bomb right here. We'll just hit that with some metallic. And there's all of our darker metallics. Now we can go in and highlight them with our lighter silver color. So for the lighter silver dry brush, I'm going to be using a flatter synthetic brush. I like these for a nice even dry brush, but I do want to make sure my paint is very dry for this part. So I just want to kind of glide across just very lightly, just on the top of these with this lighter silver. Just like that. I could even get a little bit drier and do some highlights here. And I know this is a little hard to see because it's very shiny, but you can kind of see it on the bell a little bit more. So if you see one side of the bell is a little more highlighted than the other one, and that's what you want to do. You just kind of want to glide that across there. And the same with the cords. Just a very, very light dry brush. Even take a little bit and just put it around the one side here. Just highlight that one side a little bit more. And there's a little bit of a dent there that I want to highlight, so you can see that a little bit better. And that's pretty much it for our silver. That's what we're going to be doing. So we do have the snowman, and we're just going to go in the opposite direction of those lines and just highlight that very little bit. Just like that. And I'm not going to do this to the whole area, just that one side so it looks real shiny right there. And we have a couple of metal pieces over here. I just want to highlight his boot just a little bit more. And maybe this area is going to be hard to get in, just the sides over here. So that's a little bit more highlighted. So we're pretty much done with this base. I do want to just add a little bit of wash into the red clock like I did his cloak. So I'm just going to be using the soft tone again so you get to see the color red. Don't want to cover that color up too much. I just want to take a little bit just to clean that up in here. And that just helps you see a little bit more of the detail where the shape of the clock is back here too. And that's pretty much it for our base. I mean, you guys could definitely use some snow flock if you'd like. Me personally, I'm probably not going to do that just because this is one of those commemorative series things where they have a specialty base. But I mean, if you guys want to see me do some snow flock, just leave a comment. And if I get enough comments, I can make a third video showing you guys how to do the snow flock, how I do my snow. There's a couple different ways you can do it. Depends on how sparkly and Christmassy or how realistic you want it, I guess. So if you guys want to see something like that, just leave me a comment. And like I said, I could do a third video. But yeah. So our base is pretty much finished. I do want to let that dry for a second, and I do want to glue our snowman down. He's almost done. There's just a couple details on him that I would like to do. I want to paint that little edges here green, and then his face and little coal buttons and hat and things like that. And I think it would be easier to just glue him on at this point. So I'm going to glue him on, let that stuff dry, and I'll be right back. So I just have a nice dark gray here, and I'm actually going to use this on his coal buttons and his eyes and some of the black areas that I'm going to leave black. So I'm just going to take a little bit of dry brush and just gently glide over those little stones, those little coal buttons. Just so you can get the detail and the general shape that it's coal. It's not completely smooth. And I'm going to do the same to his eye. And I'm just going to use the corner of that brush. And you can really start to see the detail too. And you dry brush it a couple of times. I do want to highlight this a little bit with white afterwards as well. But I just want to take a little bit of this gray too and just highlight his hat a little bit. Just so you can see the detail a little bit. I'm not too worried about his ribbon. I'm going to go over that with something else. So. But he has like a couple of nice folds in his hat right there that I want to highlight. Maybe right there as well. Just so it doesn't look flat black like it's just primed. So. And me personally, my black that I do, I don't really highlight it too much more after this. Like maybe if there's like a little point of interest somewhere, I'll put a little bit of like a lighter gray. But for the most part, I don't really want it to look gray. I want it to be black. But you gotta highlight it some way. So, dark gray. Nice dry brush, scratchy noises. My favorite. All right. And that is pretty much what I'm going to do to his hat. Makes it just look a little dirtier too. It's not a brand new hat. And I do want to highlight his black boots here too as well. So I'm just going to take a little bit of gray and just pull out the details in those boots. Just like that. especially the tips of the boots. You want those to be nice and worn looking. So I'm just taking the brush and gently gliding that across with a nice dry brush. Oh, and we forgot about his gun. We got to do that in metal. There's always something I miss, I swear. All right, so we're just going to take a little bit of our darker silver and dry brush that little gun. Wow, you can really see the detail that comes out. That is neat. All right. And I do want to get a little bit behind here. Very carefully. There we go. Highlight that little edge a little bit too. And you can really see that pop. And I'm just going to take a little bit of our darker gray. Now that I'm done being sidetracked by things I forget. And just dry brush his little boots as well. So you can really see the texture in them. And this is actually how I do my Gloomspite Gets cloaks. You can really see the detail right there. All right. So I have a couple Citadel colors here that I really like to use on skulls and teeth. And one is actually called Screaming Skull, and the other one is Xandri Dust. So for his little skull up here, his teeth, this guy's teeth, this cloth, and this guy's teeth, and there's a little cloth and leather pouch down there. I'm actually going to be using the Xandri Dust first as a base coat. So for that, I'm just going to take a little bit, and I definitely might need to water this down just a little bit. Just because Citadel's paints are a little heavy bodied. I mean, I love them. And I love them because they're so heavily pigmented. But I definitely need to water them down. And I'm just going to go across that skull. And basically just make it that base coat. And this is the darker one out of the two. I'm going to cover up that little black spot that I got there with some paint that's not watered down. That'll cover it. I just want to make sure I get the edge of that skull as well. Perfect. All right. And I do want to do his little teeth. And this part is very small. And it's a little tough to get in there. I'm just going to worry about the underneath plane, and then I'll turn him and do the top plane of his teeth. And normally that helps me not get overwhelmed by, oh my god, this is so small, but there's so many surfaces. Yeah, this helps. So I did the underneath plane. Now I'm going to flip him around, and I can kind of see the top of his little teeth. And I'm just going to take the brush and highlight those little tops. Because you're not going to see the behind of his teeth because they're in his mouth. So, just like that. And you can try to get on the side of that one tooth as well. That's a big tooth. And there he's got his ugly little teeth. Adorable. And for this guy, I'm going to do the same thing. He is just very, very, very small. And I'm pretty much just going to coat the entire inside of his mouth with this color because I'm going to go over it with a wash so you see more of that detail. And there is a little metallic part that I forgot by his mouth that I'm painting right next to. That little grenade pin next to his mouth. Yeah, I gotta paint that metallic. And I do want to do this cloth a little bit darker. I'm gonna go in with Steel Legion Drab for that. We're gonna wait on that because that's gonna be leather stuff. And we have a couple more little teeth over here. And I just want to get and that'll be perfect. So for all of the leather pieces and little ropes, I'm going to use Steel Legion Drab. And yes, this is a brand new paint bottle. Very messy. All right. So we have his little cloth down here. And I'm just going to take a little bit of that Steel Legion Drab. And I do want to water that one down too a little bit. And just paint that area with that nice dark brown. There's a little spot right there. And I do want to get this edge over here. And behind his little cloth. This part's a little hard. I'm sorry if you guys can't see very well. Let's see if I can get in there. There we go. So that's going to be a darker color. And I don't see too many things that are rope or leather on him. I do see a cat hair because I was petting my cat, but still, I gotta get that out of there. There is a little spot right here where it's like a little rope, and I'm just gonna paint that color as well. Just like that. And I think he has a couple of little leather things happening. And one of them is the same little rope ties right here. So I'm going to have to stick him on something to hold him for a second. Because I just want to get right in here. There's a little cloth and pouch here that I want to be that color. And you can see it from the behind a little bit too. And I do want to do his little rope belt. So I'm just going to put a little bit of paint over that as well. And you can kind of see it in the front too. And there we go. Let that dry, and then we'll throw a wash over it and it'll look nice. So I'm going to be using another wash on all of the areas we just painted, the teeth and things like that, skulls. And this is Army Painter's Strong Skin Shade. Now that is this one right here. This is pretty close to Airgrax Earthshade by Citadel. And that's what I would normally use as well. But I'm just going to take a little bit and I'm just going to put it right in his little teeth. You guys can see, just to highlight how gross and dirty his mouth is. You can really see those teeth pop after I throw that wash in there. And like I said, I am going to put a little bit on here as well, so you can see those nice details. Like I said, this is pretty much just equivalent to Airgrax Earthshade, if that's what you guys are used to using. I know I use that in quite a few of my videos. I just want to get a little bit behind that banner where there would be some darker areas. But you can really see that that texture of that cloth really shows up after that. And I do want to do his teeth. So we'll just throw a little bit over those. Not too much. Just enough to make them look nice and dirty. And we're going to do our hat skull as well. And I'm going to throw some of that wash on his little cloth and pouch down here, and his little belt, and his teeth. And just try to get the back a little bit with some wash. And his belt. A little too much paint there. Try to get right in that little area. And there we go. You can really see that detail a lot more. So those washes are going to take a minute to dry. So I'm actually going to do a couple random things on the snowman. I'm going to do his little carrot nose and some of the green on his branches. So, and you guys are going to be real shocked once you figure out what color I'm using on his little carrot nose. It's going to be orange. Lava orange, to be exact. I know, crazy, right? Crazy. All right. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that orange and paint his nose. So it looks like he has a little carrot nose. And I feel like this light orange does look really good. I know this is probably hard for you guys to see. I'm just doing the underneath of his nose. It does look good nice next to this blue colored snow. So it really complements the cool tones. So for the little pine needles on his branches here, I'm going to be using Angel Green. And this is just a really dark, like forest green. I mean, it is super dark. Kind of like a Christmas tree. So, and I'm going to take my flat brush and just get a nice dry brush going with that. And just gently glide that across. And just make that a little greener on the edges. And I'm only doing it kind of where that texture is. I'm not doing the whole branch. I just want to get those little pine needles at the end. And we're going to go in and highlight this with a little bit of a lighter green too, so you really see that texture. But this is just our dark green that we're using as a base coat to kind of map out where we're putting the green. So, and he should look something like that. So it just adds a little bit more color to those branches. And I'm going to do the front plane. And I'm going to do the back plane. And I'm just going to make sure I get those top planes and the sides. Just make sure they're all coated. So those little tips. So now that our brown wash is dry, I'm actually going to go over it with the layer of Screaming Skull. And this is just a very light tannish khaki color, almost cream. It's a very, very light color. But I just want to take a little bit with my dry brush. And I do want to make sure this stuff is mixed really well. Just because this stuff, like I said before, is a little bit thicker than what I'm used to. So I just want to take a very small amount of that. Make sure it is a nice dry brush and just go over that skull. Just like that. And I do want to get a little bit on his teeth as well. Just a very small amount. Just to highlight that little area. Just like that. And he has some teeth I want to highlight. Just gently get in there with the brush. And this is a very, very, very dry brush. Almost till my paint is like coming off in little powderiness. That's only for his teeth though, because they're that small. You can see that really highlights that front tooth. And I'm just going to take a little bit more of that. Just a little bit wetter of a dry brush. And just dry brush his little leather pouches under here. And I want that a little more dry. And just highlight those details. And right here on his little belt, we'll put a little highlight. And a little here. That really makes it look like leather. So for the highlights on the branches, I'm going to be using Greenskin, and this is just a brighter green. Just have a little bit here, and I am going to do this in a dry brush and just highlight those little edges. Just like that. Very lightly. And you could already see the difference. And our branches are pretty much done. And all I want to do to finish those branches up is just take a little bit of our wash we were using before on his skull and just stick a little bit in here just so you can see some of the detail in the branch. And I don't really want to touch that green too much. Just kind of in the center of the branch. This is just very, very small amount. And now our branches are completely done. All we got to finish on our snowman is his hat. So I think I'm going to make his ribbon maybe red or blue. Not sure yet. Probably red. So for the ribbon on his hat, I am going to use a darker red. Now this is the red we used on his Santa coat. I'm going to go in with something a little darker just to kind of break up all of that bright red. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this red and paint his ribbon. And I think making it different from the candy cane definitely helps break up all of that super bright red. And I do want to get that little edge on the top here. But I think this color would look nice. And it's a little hard to get on the one side here. Just want to get that top edge where his hat folds over. I could probably fix that spot up a little bit. And there we go. And I do want to take a little bit of light gray and just really carefully do a quick dry brush over his coal buttons, and this would be the last thing we are doing to them. And this is a very, very dry brush. So you can see all the detail in his eye. Just like that. And our snowman is pretty much done. I do want to just put a little bit of color in his one eye. I think I'm going to go with a metallic blue. I have something neat by Vallejo that I want to try. So this is Vallejo's model color. And this is the Metal Azul. So this is a really metallic blue. And my paint bottle actually kind of exploded. That's why there's so much of it over here. But this is pretty much what it looks like. It's very, very rich in blue. So I just want to paint a little bit on his eye. And I'm not watering this down either because I didn't put a black base coat. But I think that works. And I think that's what I'm going to be using on his eyes as well. It's very similar to the box, and I really like the way it looked. So I figured I'd give this Vallejo stuff a shot as well. And eyes are tricky. Just want to get a very small amount right on his eye. And that should do it. I think this blue is very Christmassy as well. And his eyes, I think I'm actually going to make a different color. I think they're going to be red. We might make him a little fancier as well. I haven't decided yet. So he actually has a little ribbon right here attached to that little star that we're going to paint gold. I'm actually going to go in with the same color I did the snowman's ribbon on his hat. And I'm going to use that darker red and just paint that ribbon right in here. Just so that pops. And we can probably put a fun stripe or something in it as well. Gotta let that dry first. And there is like a very slight edge underneath his beard where you can kind of see the edge of that ribbon. And I'm gonna do my best to just get that little edge. So when you turn it, it looks like the ribbon's on top of his coat. So for all the gold stars, I'm going to be using this Greedy Gold. And this is just a very, very dark gold that I think would stand out really nice. And I don't want too much paint on there. I do kind of want a dry brush, but a heavy one. And I just want to glide over the top of that and make all those little stars gold. And that really makes them stand out. And he has a couple of stars, I believe. I think he only has one star. But I give him 10. How's that? And I also want to take a little bit of gold and just touch up a little bit of these areas here. Just to break up those little shapes. And I am going to take a very small amount of gold as well, and I'm going to do the little ammunition. I'm just going to do the very edge on the top of these little bullets here, and their top edge where the primer would normally be. I know there's no primer, but just so you guys know where I'm talking about in case you can't see. And I'm going to do a little stripe where you see the shell still here. That makes your little bullet shells pop out a little bit. And I'm going to need a copper for the next part. So I have weapon bronze here, and this is pretty much copper. You guys can fight me in the comments over it, but it's very orangey, very coppery. So that's what I'm going to be using for these other parts. I'm just going to take a little bit of that. And right where the tip of the bullet would be, that's what I'm going to paint copper. Just to kind of break up the segments of that bullet. Just like that. So for his little strap here holding on his fake beard, I'm just going to go in with a little bit of Steel Legion Drab. That's the color we used on his cloth earlier. I just kind of want to make that look a little bit more like the picture. I know it's hard to see there. You can kind of see it on the back right there. We're going to make that look like that. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that brown and paint that area right there. Just like that. So for some of his little ornaments, I'm going to go back in with the metallic Vallejo, that azul. And I'm actually going to do a lot of his ornaments in this blue metallic color. One, because my paint bottle exploded and I have a lot of it on my paper. And two, because it is a really pretty blue Christmassy color. And I really think it breaks up all of that green and red that we have going on. So I'm just going to do my best to try to get underneath that ornament. Right there. And I can already see I missed a spot. I got a spot of green on his beard. So he has one ornament there. And there is an ornament hanging off the back of his gun. And we're going to paint that blue as well. And I do want to water this one down a little bit. Seems to be drying a little quick. But it also looks really great on a white base coat. I have used it on a black base coat and it does look really nice on black too. But the white really makes that blue pop. And there we go. That adds a little touch of color. And I'm actually going to use a little bit of that on here as well, because I really think that that would break that up nicely. Kind of bring that color around a little more. And yeah, that does look very nice. And I don't think he has any ornaments hanging off of him, so I think we're okay with the blue for now. So I just want to come back in with my Screaming Skull color and just do a very light dry brush on that little guy right here. Just give that a little texture, just so it's not flat. And I think I'm just going to take a little bit of our gold that we have left over and do his little bells here. I think they're bells. They're adorable, whatever they are. Either that or like little Christmas lights. I'm not positive. I swear I'll get new glasses one day. I swear. And because we did that on the white and this one on the black, we kind of get two different colors, which is nice, even though it's the same greedy gold. So we're pretty much done with our main gobbo here. I do want to do a little bit more detail over here where this little snowball bomb is, but I think it would be a lot easier to glue him on at this time. So I'm going to get him attached to our base, and then we'll go from there. So I do want to make him a little more fancy. Now you guys don't have to go into detail, like he is pretty much done. However, I think it would be a little more fun to make him look a little more elfy. Now I didn't want to use too much green because of his skin tone, but I am going to be using that really dark angel green again. And I'm going to make his hat a little different from this little Santa Claus guy here. I just want to add a little bit more detail to it. So I'm just going to take a little bit and I might do some stripes, and I might do his little headband here in this nice forest green color. Even though it's angel green, it is a very dark forest green. So I just want to take a little bit and paint over this white part. Now this is a very different green than his skin tone, so it wouldn't be, you're definitely going to be able to tell the difference between the two. And if you notice, we did use this green on a couple other things over here. So this will break that up nicely with the other areas just by using a touch of it over here. And I do want to go over this with a dry brush of a lighter green as well. But yet a very different green than we used on his skin tone. And I'm not going to be using a wash over this either, just because this is already a very dark green that we're using. So it really doesn't need to be too much darker. I just want to go around his hat. And it is okay if you get a little bit on his cloak. I am going to do his cloak green as well. I just want to get that area first. Now I do want to do some fancy stripes on his hat. And I am going to take the same color green. I might want to water it down just a little bit for this so it's nice and smooth. And I do want to get a lot on my brush. Not too much, but I just want to go around and I want to copy that shape of his hat and just go along right here like that, and right here like that, and just kind of start that little stripe pattern. And I'm gonna go around here and put another stripe, and I'm gonna do this plain first right here and then go around and connect them. Right here is half fold, so there'll be only one stripe there. And then I'm just going to follow it around with the shape of his hat. And you would just connect that right to that one. And it's okay if it's not perfect. His hat isn't completely cylindrical. It's fabric folds. And I'm just going to do the same around the next stripe. Just like that. And you might have to go over it again in some areas or fix some spots like we did the candy cane. But it's one of those things where learning new skills, you do make mistakes. And you do have to go back and fix things. And honestly, that's okay. It's just more practice. And I just want to get underneath that little fabric fold there. And now he has this fun striped Christmas hat. And I think that really adds a lot of nice detail. So for his little cloak, I am going to go in with that same green we used for the hat. And I'm actually going to paint that all green. Because I think I'm going to mix it with a gold pattern, either stripes or checkers. I really like stripes, especially for Christmas stuff, so I think he might have some gold stripes. So I'm just going to do my best and get in that little area in the front there. And this is what happens when I really like painting a miniature and I never want it to end. I just keep changing things until I'm like really happy with it. So this is the part of the video where I just go absolutely ham on details. Because I don't want to stop painting this guy. So if you're still here, you know, definitely subscribe for more of these videos. And if you like this one, you could hit that like button. That could be a good idea. I just want to get that coated with a nice base coat. And there is a little edge underneath I want to get. Can't forget about that. And I gotta make sure I get right underneath his chin as well. And there's a little spot where the snowball is in front of. Can't really get to it too much. So I think that'll be all right for now. So I think I'm gonna attempt some checkers on his green cloak, and I have a very, very, very thin brush for this. And I'm just going to kind of map out where they're going to be. And I am going to go in the direction and with the shape of his cloak and just draw a couple lines down. Just like that. Just a couple at first just to space him out. And then maybe another couple in between those, because we do want some small checkers. And I'm just going to do that all around where I can get to. And a little bit in the front as well. Let's see, where's that other line leave? Put that there. Because like I said, I do want them kind of evenly spaced out. So, alright, and that should do. Just to kind of map out our lines. Make sure he's attached on there. And then I'm going to go in the opposite direction. And I'll start at the top best I could and just draw a line across the top. And a line in the middle. I'm not sure how well this is turning out so far. But if we have to go back in with some green, we can do that. Alright, so now I'm going to start filling in some of my checkers. I'm just going to make one stripe going across the front. And honestly, so far it kind of looks like plaid. I kind of like it. Guys, I might have figured out how to paint plaid just now. Maybe that's what I'll do. Because that kind of looks really neat. Yeah, maybe I'll save checkers for another video. Especially when they're black and white and they're a little easier to see. But, yeah, maybe I'll take a little bit of red, too. And, add a couple different colored stripes. And I do have some of that darker red left over here. I'll just put a couple of lines in between that. Kind of how plaid is. I feel like plaid is a Christmas thing. I don't know, I was born in the 90s, so I'm very partial to plaid. I love doing these like little experiments with these guys though. It's fun. And we'll do another line across right where this other gold line is. And that looks pretty neat. It's a little plaid coat on. That's pretty cool. And I am going to do his little eyes red too. I think they would stand out. And I'm still using a very, very thin brush. And I'm just going to put a little dot right over his eye there. And a little dot right over his eye there. And I think that really makes those eyes stand out. He is adorable. Man, he is up to some mischievous business. Look at him. So I went and glued him to the base because he was getting a little hard to attach, but we are almost done. I just want to take a little bit of this poisonous cloud color. It's like almost yellow, it's still on the greener side. I just want to dry brush a little bit of that one part of his hat where that star is. And I'm taking a very light amount of this. Like, we don't need a lot at all. And that is already dry. Perfect. And I'm just going to dry brush a little bit of his little hat right here. Just to kind of highlight some of those areas. I might have to do that off camera and show you guys. It's a very small area. All right, I highlighted his little hat a little bit more. Now, like I said, we're almost done with this. I just wanted to do a little bit more detail in this little smoke bomb and maybe a little bit of object source lighting. And I want to make this look like it's lit. So I'm actually just going to add a little bit of a red spot here. Just kind of going around that darker area right here. Mostly where the black is on the bottom here. And I'm just using a really dark red for this part. And I am going to blend it up just a little bit. Not too much. Just like that. So we have that like little dark red area there. And it's okay, you could leave some of the black down here. That actually helps a little bit. So we'll let that dry for a second and I'll be right back. So I have these two neon colors, Radar Red and Laser Orange, and these are by Huge Miniatures, and these are pretty much what I use on all of my lava, flames, anything that's lit. So I always start off with the red, and I'm just going to take a little bit where I put that darker red, and I'm not going to cover it completely. I'm just going to take a little bit here and maybe a little bit on the side there. Just a very small amount right there and on the back. Just a couple little specks here and there. Just to kind of make that just a little brighter in the center. And then I'm going to take a little bit of my Radar Orange or Laser Orange. Yeah, there we go. Laser Orange. And I'm actually going to go over that area that I did the red. And this is where a lot of the fun happens. I'm going to want to even go in the very center of that little red and just put a small dot. This is a very small area, so we don't need too much. Just a couple little dots of that orange. And you can already see it's really starting to look like it's lit. But we're not done yet. So next I'm going to go on with this demonic yellow. And this is just your normal everyday yellow. And I'm going to take a very small dot, smaller than the orange even, and just boop, right in the center. It's so small, it's kind of like doing eyes. And maybe one in the back. I don't want nearly as much of this as I did the other colors. So I am going to do some object source lighting with this guy. And just like I did in my Reaper miniature video with my little Grim Reaper and his lantern, I'm basically just going to be mapping out where this light source is going to be hitting. So this plane right here is mostly where we're going to get that. And I'm just going to draw a little bit of white right here. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just kind of the shape of his hat there. you know. And we don't have to put too much white on this guy in particular, specifically because he has a lot of white already. So it's just a matter of a couple of areas. Maybe his little ornament here has a little shine. We can just put that there. So this area is mostly where we're going to be aiming for. And like I said, that's pretty much it. You can maybe put like a little bit of detail right on the tip of his nose here on the one side. And maybe his chin here. We'll just add a little touch just to highlight that. And if we really want to get fancy, we could do a little bit on his knee right here. So I'm just gonna make a little spot right there and on his boot. Not too much in this area though. We're just getting a little bit of light in that area here. And that's pretty much it as far as mapping out where all of our light sources are going to be. Like I said, he already has a lot of white happening. So we're going to go in with our orange next. And this is where the real magic happens. We're going to go in with our laser orange and our dry brush. And we're going to take quite a bit of that orange and we're going to map out all those areas where we put white. And we're going to dry brush that whole area. So this entire plane right here, we're going to be dry brushing. I know that sounds crazy, right? No, we're going to map that out. And like I said, this is a slight dry brush. So we have this whole area here. We have around the snowball where that little bomb is, and we're just going to highlight that. We're going to put a little bit on his snowball here. And we're pretty much just going to dry brush all those areas where we want that light source to be shown. So here on his foot, we're going to take a little bit. On his knee, we're going to take a little bit. And that is really going to make things pop nice. Just like that. And I could actually do a little bit more over here just to kind of highlight that a little bit more. And there you go. You have your little light source. And making light sources is just as simple as that. It's just dry brushing in a specific area. The hardest part is basically just finding out where your light source is. And once you know where your light source is, you can paint it. And there you have it. I personally love doing these little light sources, especially because I do a lot of the black light stuff. I might even take a little bit and just bring it up here as well. Kind of reflecting off of the bottom of that smoke. And if you look behind here, there really shouldn't be any light source because it would be being blocked by that. The only light source you should have is on the other side of that smoke, but not very much. You're not going to see that light past that snowball hat, and that's it. And here is our finished product. If you shine the little black light on him, it looks like his bomb is being lit. And it is, well, it's pretty lit. I could even turn the light off and show you guys a little bit better. His little light source. And it is a lot of fun. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. And you guys, if you really like this, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. I'm always going to be doing more videos that glow. That's where the magic really happens in Chloe's Magic Minis. Well, happy holidays. I hope you guys all enjoy your new year. and I'll see you guys next time.